and welcome to the Independent School Podcast with me, Juliet Corbett. As an executive coach and strategy advisor, I guide senior leaders in the world of education to find their strategic focus, empower their teams, and regain control over their time, helping them to go from exhausted to strategic. On this podcast, I share the ideas and tips that I've developed over the years to help the leaders that I've worked with one-to-one, so that I can help you to focus on your priorities and achieve your goals with confidence and ease. This week, we're going to be doing a little bit of a wrap-up for 2023. I'm going to be talking about one idea from each of the 5 most popular episodes that went out in 2023, encouraging you to go back and listen to these episodes again, or at least the ones that catch your attention as I talk through them. Okay, so we almost need a drum roll here as I unveil the top 5 episodes from 2023. And just as a side note, we've now hit the 16,000 listens mark for the podcast, which is fantastic. And it echoes the fact that I get a lot of comments from people saying that the podcast has helped them through the year to be more strategic and to focus in on their top priorities, which is always really good to hear, really wonderful to hear. Also interesting to know that because we've got enough listens, some of the information contained in which were the top 5 episodes actually also flags up some of the key trends that we're seeing in the sector, which is also really interesting. So without any further ado, I won't keep you in tension. I'm going to actually start with the first most popular episode and work my way down to 5. Which seems slightly corny when they do it in the reverse order. Okay, so the most popular episode from 2023 was episode 136, Partnerships and Service with Alistair Chirnside, Warden of St Edward's in Oxford. And Alistair joined me on the podcast for a fantastic interview, which I definitely invite you to go back and listen to. All of the links to these previous episodes are going to be in the episode notes from this time. And Alistair really came to me wanting to talk about partnerships and service as being something that St Edward's was really focusing time and energy on and innovating around. And it's not a coincidence that this is the most listened to episode this year, because this is obviously one of the big trends across the sector, is schools rethinking and innovating and putting more time and energy and investment into understanding how they can best work with their local community. And Alistair gave us some fantastic examples around how their Beyond Teddies programme, so Teddies is the kind of colloquial friendly name for the school, their Beyond Teddies programme is putting service into the timetable weekly, how teachers are going out to work with state school pupils, and how they're being much more active about partnerships rather than just being passive when somebody approaches them. They're actually actively going out into the community and seeing how they can form a genuinely reciprocal partnership relationship with the charities, community groups, state schools, etc. that are around them in Oxford. And I think what the one key theme that I want to pull out from this episode with Alistair is the importance of building a culture in which, yes, you can make changes to the timetable and you can make changes to certain kind of the ways you're investing in these things in terms of partnerships, but it's actually about bringing the whole school community with you. And Alistair explains how they're doing that at St Edward's, and I think definitely it's worth going back and listening to. Interestingly, actually, if you're listening to this roughly when it goes live, I'm going to be at the HMC IDP Agbis Bursaries and Partnerships Conference at the end of January 2024. So if you're going to be there, I look forward to seeing you. But again, a sense that conference gets more and more exciting and innovative. And every 2 years we meet together at that conference, it feels like there's more energy and more innovation around both bursaries and partnerships. So definitely I invite you to go and listen to that episode with Alistair Chirnside. Our most popular episode of the year. The second most popular episode of the year was 129, Your Inbox is Not Your Job. And I find it fascinating how many people have contacted me about this episode to say that they feel liberated from their inbox, having put into place some of the habits and shifts in mindset that I talk about in that episode. It obviously really hit a nerve and resonated with people who were feeling that they are tied to their inbox rather than trying to get done all the things that actually need to happen, the important things on your list, because they're constantly being bombarded with emails around things that are urgent and may not be important. Now, the one idea I want to share with you from this is something that actually people said back to me. Now, whenever more than one person kind of returned my message back to me, it means it's resonating. And lots of people said back to me that what really resonated with them from this episode is my comment, no one gets promoted because their inbox is dealt with each day. Now, clearly I'm being slightly flippant. There might be some people, probably not listening to this podcast, but some people for whom their entire role is judged on whether they've dealt with their inbox. If you're dealing with customer support tickets, then maybe dealing with your inbox each day is a criteria for promotion. However, I'm betting if you're listening to this podcast, you are not going to be judged in terms of your annual appraisal, in terms of your ability to get promoted, either within your school or within moving between into a different school, a more senior position. They're not going to be asking you whether you have dealt with your inbox each day. And I shared in that episode that personally, I don't find inbox zero that helpful, although I know some people do. But it's about finding a balance so that you can be in control of how much time you're spending on your inbox, and it isn't distracting you from the things that need to happen each day. And I think the key thing that I always just want to return to here is that if we're going to be strategic, normally, not always, but normally, the strategic work that we're trying to do is proactive. It's actually work that we are going to initiate ourselves and then proactively drive forwards. It's not normally the reactive work. And of course, when you're responding to inbox, you are automatically being reactive in responding to others. So having a proactive approach to carving out time in your diary, understanding that your inbox is not your job, really resonated with people this year. And if you haven't listened to the episode, I definitely suggest you go back and have a little listen over the winter vacation. The third most listened to episode for 2023 was 128, Regular Giving with Christina McClendon, Deputy Director of Development at Magdalen College School in Oxford. And what I think resonated with people, firstly, just the enthusiasm with which Christina brings fundraising to life when she was talking. I think that itself was very compelling for people. But actually also understanding some of the best practice moves that we can make to improve the regular giving that we are embedding across our schools. And fascinating for me, I'm sometimes slightly sceptical about the quantity of time and energy that goes into regular giving when you think about the output. So if you look at a basic kind of return on investment calculation. But actually what Christina did was she talked about how you're placing the regular giving in a context of deepening a culture of philanthropy. And in that way, actually, it's really important to have that regular giving efficient and have it innovative and to be getting the message out to as many people in your community as possible. So I highly recommend going back and listening to this one if you missed it, especially if you're interested in fundraising and building fundraising in your school. The one idea that really resonated with me and that I remember now, Christina and I talking about earlier in the year, was this idea of surround sound fundraising. The way she described it was the fact that people often feel underconfident about asking more than once. And that's understandable, but actually when you think about the mindset slightly differently, from a fundraising mindset point of view, what we're looking to do is to have the confidence to ask people in different ways, so using different fundraising methods and at different times, but regularly, over time, building the concept that the project that you're fundraising for is impactful, it has an urgency to it, and that there is a momentum and a success building around that project so that people don't want to step back and miss out. They feel compelled and enthused and inspired to give something at that particular time and moment where they are, wherever they are in their life, to give something back. And it's only really that you build that over time with this idea of surround sound fundraising, multiple asks in different ways at different times, but with a consistent message, not sporadically bombarding people all the time, but with a strategic, consistent message. That's how you get the results that you want. So if that sounds interesting, I invite you to go back and listen to the episode 128 with Christina McClendon. The fourth most listened to episode for 2023 was 134, 4 Building Blocks of Strategy. Now this one, and actually I'm going to give you a little hint, the next episode I'm going to tell you about as well, both of these form They're solo episodes which I delivered. They form the fundamental bedrock of how to be more strategic. Now, in this episode, 4 Building Blocks of Strategy, I talk about vision, sticking points and accelerators, the general approach, and the action plan. Basically, it's 4 steps that you can go through as you're developing a strategic plan, but it's also really ties into the connection between having a strategy and taking action. Having a strategy that sits as a PDF on a website or a PDF in your Teams folder is pretty pointless, to be honest. Having a strategy that leads to an action plan which then gets implemented is where the power of strategy really occurs. And the one idea I want to talk about this time is the importance of addressing your sticking points head on. And I talk about this in more detail in the episode, so I'm only going to mention this very briefly here, but sometimes there is a tendency to skip over a really deep, meaningful analysis of both the accelerators that are already driving you forwards to deliver your vision and the sticking points that might be holding you back from delivering that vision. And the sticking points in particular, if we can identify what those are, figure out which are the most important and which can we control in some way or overcome in some way, and then focusing our scarce resources on overcoming those sticking points, that's when we normally see a real acceleration in terms of the impact of a strategy. And you can then do that over and time again, addressing the next sticking point over time. And it's that approach to strategy that I find really works, genuinely works. It's not just some kind of theoretical strategic exercise. It is actually what's going to help you focus your scarce resources on the things that are going to make a difference. So if you're looking to up-level your strategy knowledge or your ability to think and act strategically, that's the place to go. Episode 134, the 4 Building Blocks of Strategy. And then finally, the 5th most popular episode from 2023 was 135, 5 Elements of Strategic Thinking. And as I mentioned, this offers an opportunity to see the second fundamental idea that I have around how to improve your strategic thinking ability by breaking down strategic thinking into 5 elements which are much more easy to understand, and then to start playing with and role modeling and building into your meetings in a way that starts to develop everybody's ability to think strategically. The one idea that I want to showcase in this episode is systems thinking. This is one of the 5 elements of strategic thinking, and it is critical, especially in schools, actually. Systems thinking is about being able to visualize an interconnected web of people, processes, organizations, departments, and each of those relationships in that interconnected web has ambiguous cause and effect between them. Once you can start to really understand the system in which you're working, then you can start to think about, okay, we have a strategic challenge that we wish to address. If we address it this way, we're going to test out an innovative idea, this is the impact we think it's going to have across the system. So you're looking for, what do we think the cause and effect relationships might be? They're not always straightforward, they're not always obvious, but if we can start to really plan through time, especially the impact of our strategic innovations, then we're really up-leveling and really improving our strategic thinking ability. And done as a group, it's incredibly powerful, whether it's in a department and team, or whether it's a senior leadership team, whether it's a governing team, whatever that group is, helping people to understand how they each see the system differently often unlocks new ideas and helps everybody together to create better strategies. So those were the 5 top episodes from 2023. The links for all of these are in the episode notes, or just go back through the back catalogue of episodes and see what piques your interest in terms of other episodes to listen to. In the episode notes, I'm also going to put links to the top 5 episodes of all time. So I started this podcast in 2020. I've linked to the most listened to 5 episodes from the podcast. I've also put a link to last week's episode. Now, last week's episode with Jim Knight around the big picture and around being human was a really helpful kind of end of 2023 analysis of where we are on some of the really big issues around climate emergency, around AI, education policy, especially embedded within a UK environment. And Jim Knight's episode has not yet had time to creep into the top 5 episodes of this year. However, I wanted to really highlight it here and recommend that you do also go back and listen to that one too. We're actually going to be taking a couple of weeks off. We're going to take a short break over the winter vacation. I've given you lots of ideas of episodes to dive into, so fear not, you're not alone. Dive into the back catalogue, and I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks, embarking again on a series of solo episodes and guest episodes. So that is it for this time. I hope this has been helpful. Do go and dive into all the links in the episode notes. Do let me know what resonates with you, what topics have really helped you this year. I love to hear your feedback. It helps me to make sure that the topics I'm covering are really relevant and really grounded for people, and not too theoretical, up in the sky stuff, but really rooted in what's going to help leaders as well. Have a wonderful winter vacation, and I'll talk to you again in 2024. Bye bye then.